She's so beautiful to me. Super high yield concept is the Wigger's diagram of the cardiac cycle. So let's go through how to draw it. I didn't come up with this, but it's so good. So first I start by drawing 4 parallel vertical lines. These two need to be close together and these two need to be close together. And under those lines, you're gonna write IC, IR, MAM, COCO. IC stands for isovolumetric contraction and IR stands for isovolumetric relaxation. Your MAM COCO tells you what's going on with your valve. Mitral closed, aortic open, aortic closed, mitral open. Now we add in our EKG waveform. I start by drawing my P wave before the first line. And then when I draw my QRS complex, I'm aiming for my R wave to peak at this line. So you've got QRS, that's your QRS complex. And then my T wave is going to end before this line. PQRST, you've got your EKG waveform. Now we add in the central venous pressure waveform. My A wave peaks just after my P wave, and it's going to end at this first line here. And that makes sense because your A wave is associated with atrial systole, and your P wave is the electrical activity that causes atrial systole. Then I draw in my C wave, and it peaks on this line. And then finally, my V wave peaks at this fourth final line here. What's next? Say it with me, aortic waveform. That's going to kind of swoop down here until the aortic valve opens. And then obviously you're going to have ventricular ejection. So you've got big increase, right? You're ejecting. And then you stop ejecting. You terminate ventricular systole when the aortic valve closes. And when your aortic valve closes, you get your dicrotic notch, which is going to peak at this last line. You can add in your heart sounds S1 and S2 when your mitral valve closes and your aortic valve closes. And then if you want to be really extra, you can relate this to your left ventricular pressure volume loop. We have isovolumetric contraction bounded by the mitral valve closing and the aortic valve opening. We've got isovolumetric contraction bounded by the mitral valve closing and the aortic valve opening. The aortic valve opens, you have ventricular systole and ejection. And then you have isovolumetric relaxation bounded by the aortic valve closing and the mitral valve open. Same here. You have isovolumetric relaxation bounded by your aortic valve closing and your mitral valve opening. And then obviously ventricular diastolic filling on the x-axis. This will be your end systolic volume. This is your end diastolic volume. So if you wanted to calculate your stroke volume, it's just going to be this bad boy minus that bad boy. And then you can compare your stroke volume to your end diastolic volume to calculate an ejection fraction. And if you want to be a nerd pro max, you can even add in the ventricular myocyte action potential waveform, right? Phase 0 with sodium influx, phase 1 with potassium efflux, chloride influx, phase 2 potassium efflux, calcium influx, and then phase 3 and 4 with continued potassium efflux as you return to resting membrane potential or repolarization. And what is the EKG waveform associated with ventricular repolarization? Your T wave. I didn't put everything in there. There's the left ventricular waveform, the nodal tissue action potential waveform. But if you can draw this out, if you can relate all of the mechanical events to the electrical events to the associated ion movements, you are bulletproof. You can answer so many of the questions that they love to ask you in CRNA school.